fishing, it's in my soul.
Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way. And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
The shocking things I discovered about reading the entire Bible over the last year. Hey everybody, Joe Simons, like diamonds, back again, Salt Strong Unchurched. And yes, I just finished the entire Bible, and I did it with this 1 year Bible. That's where they take the entire Bible and they break it into 365 daily readings. It only takes around 12, 15 minutes a day. So I do it every single morning. And end of the year, I just finished this sucker, and really some really cool revelations, I'll say that I discovered about the Bible. I've done this quite a few times before, but I'll be honest with you, I kind of would skip around, and I would get, I will say, I'll use the word lazy, and I would stop doing, then I'd pick it back up, and I was super confused because here's how they lay this sucker out. It starts with Genesis, so they start with some Old Testament, and then New Testament, starting from the very beginning. And then they go some Psalms and Proverbs, and pretty much every single day. And so after a year, you've literally read the entire Bible from start to finish. And so meaning it's in order, right? And so if you missed 4 days of the chapter, let's just say Luke or Daniel or whatever, and then all of a sudden you pick it up, you're kind of lost. It would be like, buying a book that's, a murder mystery or something, and, skipping a couple chapters and picking it up, you kind of be lost, and you probably wouldn't enjoy it as much. And so that's where I found myself. So I kind of went in with a little bit of a sour taste, like, oh, the Bible's boring. And shocking thing number one is it's not. In fact, there were many chapters that had me wanting to keep reading. Now, I'll be honest, there were some days when I finished with my 15 minutes of reading, I was almost kind of like, whew, thank goodness I've knocked that out for the day. I was struggling to read some of it because some of it, I'll just be honest, was a little bit tougher just to even understand, right, and how to apply it to my life today. That's the good news with me. You're going to get it like it is. I'm not a pastor. I'm not someone who's studied the Bible. I'm just going in with fresh eyes and excitement and wanting to learn more and just how to be a better person and how to put God first and how to be a better Christian. And so the good news in general, it was actually very exciting to read. And there were many days that I wanted to keep reading to the next day just to see what happened. I mean, just like reading a good book. So that was really, really cool. If you're wondering what I have here in terms of what edition, all that, it's just called the 1 Year Bible. I got it on Amazon. And I've got the NIV, which means New International Version, that's arranged into 365 daily readings. Not sure if that's the best or not. I know different people have their different perceptions and preferences on which version of the Bible. That's the one I got, just so you know. And so number one, I would say it's not as boring as I thought. Number two, God uses rather ordinary people to do really big things. And that should be exciting for all of us, right? I think, in this day and age, we look at celebrities and politicians and people of power, and God rarely, if ever, used people in power to be the hero in the story, if you will, in the Bible, right? I mean, think about that. Obviously, most people know about Daniel, a very ordinary person. I mean, Joseph, all these people in the Bible, with the exception, I guess even Jesus, right? I mean, just kind of an ordinary person. He wasn't born into some wealthy family. He wasn't born a prince, and obviously he was, but in the terms of what people were looking up to, and in terms of power, I mean, he took mostly ordinary, actually rather ordinary people to do really big things and to do miraculous things throughout the Bible. And I thought that was really cool, because I think many times, we might get down on ourselves saying, I'm no one special. I'm just ordinary. I'm not a millionaire, or I'm not a billionaire, or, I'm not the CEO of the company, or I'm not born into wealth, or, all these things that we do to kind of tear ourselves down. And in 100% of the cases, God uses used very ordinary people to lift them up to do massive things that we're still talking about and still reading about today, thousands of years later. I will also say that God has a short fuse for people who worship other idols. That was a common theme as I read this. And it should be, kind of like an eye-opener for what's going on. And I do believe, as I read this and tried to put myself in their shoes and tried to fast forward some of the stuff into our day and age, that idols, change. Back then, there was a lot of idols made out of bronze and silver and gold, and people worshiped these things. And, they were worshiping other gods. And God has a short fuse for that kind of stuff. I mean, this was a theme that happened over and over and over again, where he would destroy entire villages. And I'm talking about like no man or woman or child left, like literally destroyed, groups and even civilizations that were worshiping other idols besides him. And many times, even the Israelites, I mean, there was so many stories that tied in with the worshiping other idols. And here we are today in our age, and it's money and power and celebrities and, all these things, and just our stuff, I believe, is all idols, right? I mean, they didn't have as much stuff back then to compare it to, right? They were, to them, the coolest thing they could make was a calf statue made out of bronze, right? I mean, today in our age, we have all this stuff. And I found myself, in my younger years, worshiping a lot of things besides God, meaning worshiping money and my big house and all this stuff that I was trying to basically accomplish and to get, right? And we all can fall into that trap. And I've done that personally, even more recently, right? And sometimes I go, man, what am I doing here? Like, I got to put God first, not this house or this or that. And so that was a common theme that he has a rather short fuse for people who are putting other things above him. I mean, it's very clear that God wants us to put him first, right? And that was obviously a common theme, and he will have a short fuse for people who are worshiping other idols. And I think this day and age, man, you just look around and you see, what people are worshiping, and in many cases, it's not putting God first, and it's putting themselves first and their own personal desires first. And I don't know. I think there's going to be some things happening here in the future. It's just my gut. And many times, has stirred up a lot of stuff and put, people and civilizations and group through some tough times, just to make them see how powerful he is and to turn their eyes and their love back towards God. I will also say that over and over again, God used tough times to make people stronger, and he's going to use tough times to make you stronger. I've talked about that with my anxiety. I also believe he only dishes out, if you want to use that word, what he knows you can handle, right? Everyone is made differently, and God made all of us as our creator. And he's only kind of dishing out, the suffering and pain, the stuff that we can handle, the stuff he knows is exactly what we need to make us stronger, even if we can't see it. And most times we can't understand or see why, but he has a plan, and a perfect plan for us. And that includes the good times and the bad times. And we have to celebrate and thank him for both the good times and the bad times and the tough times and this pain and the suffering and the loss of others. That was a common theme there. The other one is serving others, giving to the poor and needy. I mean, God and Jesus, many times when people are asking him, hey, how do I, get into heaven? I mean, he challenged us. Jesus challenged people over and over again to basically give away your stuff, right? To give and to be generous. And that goes back to not putting money first, not worshiping money and putting that first, putting God above all that other stuff that we have. Now I do believe, just from all the stuff that I read, I mean, God still wants us to be abundant. There was a lot of talk about money there. And number one was not worshiping it, right? Because that is essentially another idol, right? So that's number one. But you can still clearly see that God wants us to be abundant. He doesn't want his children to, just be sitting on the streets and begging for money. He wants us to be abundant. He wants us to be smart with money. And it seems to be over and over again that God was giving more to those people who were diligent and faithful with their money, who were giving and generous with their money, right? I mean, you talk about David, right? And Solomon. I mean, these people had all kinds of abundance, and God was giving them more and more, and they were giving more and more. They all had some tough times and some things that they went through because they're human beings, right? None of these people were God. They all had some tough things that they had to fight. And things that we would look at today as essentially scandals, and all of them had to get through all of that, and in most cases, it usually made that person a better man or a woman. And so I do believe God wants us to be abundant and gives us abundance as we put him first and as we continue to give and to be generous. And as we continue to be smart with not just our money, but everything that God has blessed us with. God should always be first. I mean, that was clear over and over and over again, that, when you're talking about things that are important to you, I mean, God should be at the top. It is our creator. It is our father. That should be kind of first in our hearts. Moderation. I'm kind of going all over the place, but these are just all the bullet points that I've learned. And some of the issues that I've struggled with and I've talked about in the podcast, the answer, as my mom said, is, hey, it's right in the Bible. I mean, there's many times where the alcohol is brought up, and it's always saying moderation, or AKA don't be drunk, don't get drunk, don't be drunk. I mean, don't be drunkenness is talking about that as a sin and looked down upon. So it's very clear that if you are going to use alcohol, don't do it in excess. Do it in moderation. On anxiety, right? Seek God first and don't worry about the little things. Casting all of your anxieties on him because he cares for you. And many, many times it talks about the fact that we should not fear, and the word fear is used a couple hundred times in the Bible. Or fear not. It's basically saying, just trust in me, cast all your anxieties on me. I will take care of you. That was the theme over and over again. And, here we are. We've had quite a few podcasts on anxiety, and it tends to be some of my podcasts that get the most questions and feedback. The other one is God shuts doors and open doors on his time. So God is shutting doors, sometimes right in your face, sometimes the very ones that you think you're supposed to go through, he shuts them and also opens up new doors on his time. And his time is perfect. And most of the time from reading these stories, and we now have kind of a bird's eye view, right? As we hear these different stories about people in the Bible who thought they were supposed to go down a certain path or thought they were going to be doing this, and all of a sudden they end up in a dungeon or a prison or with a lion. I mean, all these stories, it's stuff that they never thought would have happened, right? They never in a million years could have thought, man, this is going to be a great day. I'm going to go up in a lion's den. I'm going to be put down in a prison cell or in a dungeon for a day or a week or a month or years. No one would ever have thought, hey, this has got to be God's great plan. But in every case, now that we know the end of the story, it always, turned out well. And it was God essentially challenging these people in the story to have faith, right? And in every case, God was protecting or protected that person when we have faith. And sometimes we don't understand, right? Well, hey, why did I get hurt here? Why did this person have to, leave my life? Or why did God take them? And so many times we don't understand until later. That seemed to be a present theme over and over again. And it all came down to one word. It came down to faith. And God protects us when we have faith. God performs miracles when we have faith. And most all of the miracles that occurred in the Bible, from lives being saved to, small armies absolutely destroying other armies or walls crumbling down or all the miraculous things that have happened were all because of faith in God. I mean, that was another word that just shows up over and over and over again. It's probably one of the most prominent themes in there is to have faith. He also wants us to, just be loving and to love just like Jesus. That means to being quick to forgive like Jesus, because you can't love someone if you can't forgive them, right? And in so many cases, Jesus was so quick to forgive. I mean, even in times where he was literally telling his disciples that some of you or one of you is going to betray me. So he already knew this and still was forgiving them before it even happened. I mean, how tough would that be, right? I mean, we're not talking about like, oh yeah, they're going to talk smack behind my back, or they're going to take $1 from me, they're going to borrow my car. We're talking about someone who's literally going to rat them out that leads to his ultimate death, and he's already forgiven that person. I mean, can you imagine if someone, was killing your child or doing something that horrendous, and we were able to quickly forgive them in a moment's notice? And that just goes back to just, wow, unenduring and just relentless love and forgiveness. I mean, it is amazing, the stories about love. And that was obviously any time that, we were talking about Jesus or reading about Jesus in the Bible, it always goes back to that love. I mean, that's how I, tend to describe Jesus to even our kids. I mean, that theme over and over again is just to be loving, which means to be forgiving and accepting of all, right? Not judging other people. Another part is, living for God. We've kind of talked about this, or I've talked about this a couple of times, and not for human approval or desires, right? And that goes back to, putting others, idols, things, approvals are a thing that's an idol, right? I just got to get the approval of so-and-so, or I got to go look good in front of, these people, or I have to have this kind of car to look good in front of them. I mean, that's living for human approval and desires, and it's very clear over and over and over again that we should live for God, that God should be the center of our heart and the center of our entire universe. I mean, that was just one of the themes that was there time and time again. Another one is, don't judge others. God will do the judging. God will take care of the evil. Even we don't see it, even when we see some of the stuff going on in our political system and just some of the people who look like they've been elevated up in terms of fame and money and you can only imagine. I'll let your imagination run wild, from porn stars to these people who are just evil people and the absolute opposite of Christian, and putting a lot of hate and fear and negativity into the world. And yet we're seeing them kind of rise in terms of power and money. God will take care of them. Our job is to focus on ourselves. We need to really focus on the things that we can control, which is our actions and how we wake up feeling about ourselves and who we decide to give back to and how generous we are. You could sit there and get mad and get on social media and talk about this person or this celebrity or this political person. You can get really fired up about it, but what does that really do? Does it really help you out in your relationship out with God? And the answer obviously is no. And so that was another one is don't judge others. Another one is just doing the right thing. I mean, right? How simple is that? And that's the phrase for some of you who've been around me and have heard me talk to our children. I always ask them when they're doing something wrong, is this the right thing? And then I just remind them, do the right thing, right? I mean, I'm going to die at some point, and that would be one thing, regardless if my kids are young. I hope they're old and have, kids of their own, and I get to see great-grandkids. But regardless, if I could just plant that seed in their head, and if you could do this with your kids, this is a challenge, just do the right thing. do the right thing, right? That conscience in the back of your head. So, because we all have those choices. We have them pretty much every day, right? And it could be something as subtle as looking at something inappropriate or saying something inappropriate or slandering someone or just talking behind their back. It could be something that simple or it could be something really bad. But every day you have a choice is to do the right thing. And if you take the right choice, I mean, gosh, you're going to be a better person. You will certainly be up in heaven. You'll be a better leader. You'll be a better parent, a spouse, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend. You will ultimately be the best version of yourself if you just do the right thing. I mean, the Ten Commandments. That's another kind of revelation here is they're still relevant today, right? And quite honestly, would solve many, not all, but many of the world's problems if we all just simply follow them, right? If we literally just followed the 10 Commandments, and here we are in taking 10 Commandments because it's has to do with the Bible out of our public schools, right? We're not allowed to say God, and it's crazy what we're doing, and we're wondering, why there is so much hatred and crime and shootings and stuff in our public schools, and we're literally taking the 10 Commandments, the thing that literally would solve many of our problems as overall society in our entire world if we all live by them and read them every morning, right? It just shocks me when I hear about public places and schools taking down the 10 Commandments because they're offended or it might offend someone who is not Christian. You don't have to be Christian to understand the 10 Commandments and think it could be a good thing. Right? I mean, that part, I don't know. And just reading all of these stories in the Bible, usually the times when God did lose his temper and had a short fuse and literally wiped out areas or wiped out people or did horrible, what we would consider people literally just getting destroyed, is because they weren't following the 10 Commandments. I mean, there's a reason that God gave us the 10 Commandments, just 10 of them. And they're all pretty simple to understand, and they all make sense. Do the right thing. Do the right thing. Once again, that's all I'm telling my kids, just do the right thing. I'm going to say the final one, and this is something that I don't think we hear about enough, is ask for what you need. Ask for what you need. And I still struggle with this. And I'm talking about, how do we pray and what do we ask God for? And it doesn't mean, hey, God, I want a Ferrari, because you don't need that either. You might want that. Ask God for what you need. Right. And I'll just tell you what I've been asking for. And I've seen the impact of it. Every day I tell you, I write to God and I ask for wisdom. I ask for vision, for my company, for my family, for my kids on, which way to lead all of us. Right. It is confusing sometimes to do the right thing. And man, is this the new normal we're living in? So I asked God just for wisdom. That's the same thing Solomon did, right? And that's another reason he got blessed. He didn't ask God, say, man, I just want more gold and silver. He got a lot of that stuff, but he asked simply for just wisdom. And became, what we consider Solomon is associated with wisdom and being a wise person and a good judge. So ask him for what you need, not what you want, but for what you need. And many times when you do that correctly, he will bless you and you'll end up getting a lot of stuff that you might want. I wouldn't do it for those reasons, but ask God for what you need. The other thing I will say that I thoroughly enjoyed, and I would highly encourage you to do this, especially reading this 1 year Bible, is the end. I got really excited, and it was almost kind of eerie. So it goes Old Testament, New Testament, a Psalm, and then Proverbs. And wow, if we could just give our kids or ourselves to read just a proverb, because that's usually anywhere from 2 to 8 lines. I mean, you read it in a minute or less. And wow, there was. I tell you, it was eerie how many times the proverb that day, December 30th or whatever it is, that it literally spoke to me. Like it literally said something that I've been struggling with or thinking about or praying on. It was almost like God rearranged the psalm that day just for me. And I've heard other people say that, and it's kind of the same thing happened when I would have a book get recommended to me, and I'd read it, and I would get like goosebumps, saying like, man, this is literally what I've been thinking about and praying on forever. And sometimes it was a random person or a random like blog post or something that shows up in my news feed in my Facebook. I don't watch the news. My Facebook news feed that recommended a book, and for some reason I just like, man, I'm going to read that, and it's exactly what I was praying on. In the Proverbs, wow. And they're all relevant. I would say 98% of them are super relevant to what we're going through today as a country and as a society and just as humans. Wow, the Proverbs were so powerful. So that was my favorite. It was how I ended it. And so that was kind of how I, ended my little, prayer piece of every single morning is the Proverbs. So if you do it, I highly encourage you to stick with it. Just make it a habit. I carried this sucker. It's just one book, right? I carried it with me when I went on travel. It was just part of what I did. And there were some days where, I had a late start or slept in over a year. That's going to happen like on a weekend. And I went back and read it, at 11:30 that afternoon, whenever I got done with the kids or whatever we were doing. So there were some certain times that I read it at different times of the hour, but it was really, really neat and really, really powerful, and gave me a lot of insight onto what God wants from us, and also just some more understanding about Jesus and some of the stories that we hear about as kids. I did a good job of memorizing the stuff I needed to in Bible study as a kid, but I didn't really understand it. I'm guessing a lot of kids and maybe adults now are like that, hey, we memorized the books of the Bible in order, or we memorized certain verses, and I think that was great, and it certainly helped get me a little bit more excited about reading this. But I never really paid attention, and so there were so many stories that I knew kind of the general idea, and it was really neat to actually read them, just like you would a real book where you're going through a chapter at a time and hearing all the fine details of what happened and all the miracles that took place. And once again, how God used very ordinary people to do really big things and to create miracles and even to completely, change their mindsets and beliefs in many cases. It was really neat. So I would highly encourage you guys to do that for next year. If you're listening to this here at the end of the year, or if you're not, the good news about the one-year Bible, you can pick up anytime you want. It's done by dates, so you pick it up whenever you start. If it's February 25th, I just turned to it. I'm holding it in my hand. You pick that, and that's what you go with. So hope that helped, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. I just wanted to share it because I'm just finishing this bad boy up. And once again, I would highly encourage you to do it. And if there's certain things I missed, because I'm sure I did, it's tough to cover how many, does it even say how many pages? It doesn't say how many. Oh yeah, it is. Wow. And this is also the cool part. 1,225 pages total. And that's what you do if you just spend 15 minutes a day. Sometimes it was only 10, sometimes there were shorter chapters. But 10 to 15 minutes a day, you'll read 1,200 pages in a year. And so that's me summing up 1,200 pages in a year in 20 so odd minutes. And I'd love to hear from you. I'll make sure to post this like I do all of them at saltstrong.com/unchurched. You can see all the unchurched episodes. I'd love to hear from you there in the comment section. Or I know a lot of you email me. You want to keep it a little bit more private, and I love hearing from you. So definitely keep those emails coming all through next year. And of course, right now today. And that's Joe, Joe, at saltstrong.com. Joe at saltstrong.com. Love you guys. Hope you have an amazing hope you had an amazing Christmas or having an amazing Christmas, depending on when you hear this, and great New Year's. And hopefully you set some really big goals. And one of them, to being closer than ever with God. That's going to be one of my, big goals for next year. A lot of that comes with spending time with them, right? How do you become close with a spouse or a kid or someone you love? You spend time with them, right? You talk to them. So it's kind of simple, also can be kind of tough. I know from personal experience, but that is going to be one of my big goals, and I hope you'll set it as yours, and I hope to hear from you soon. Otherwise, I'll talk to you on the next episode. Might even be next year. Love you guys.
'Cause fishing, it's